What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBMTG on the YouTube.com. We like magic, and let's talk about that Amonkhet card that was supposedly leaked over the weekend. I say supposedly because the card is still unconfirmed. The source originally is a post on Imgur. I've never known how to pronounce the stupid website's name, but anyway, the source is a post from that website. But a lot of spoiler websites that I trust, like Salvation and Mythic Spoiler, have gone ahead and put this card on their spoiler sites, and they are usually not wrong, and I trust them pretty well. And there's a couple of other reasons I think this card is the real deal. So without further ado, let's take a look at it. This is Dusk/Dawn right here. The Dusk half of it is 2 and 2 white for a sorcery, and it destroys all creatures with power greater than or equal to 3. The Dawn half of it has a new ability called Aftermath. You can cast this spell only from your graveyard for its Aftermath cost, which in this case is 5 mana, 3 and 2 white, and then you exile it after you cast it from your graveyard. In this case, Dawn will return all creatures with power less than or equal to 2 from your graveyard to your hand. Now, I've got a few things to say about the function of the card, but the first thing that everyone talks about when they see this card is the aesthetic of it, the design of it, what it looks like, you know? And honestly, a lot of people are not liking it. They say that the design looks a little dumb. That's the word I keep seeing is dumb. But I think it's kind of the opposite of that. I think this is actually really smart design for an elegant reason. Now, when it's in your hand, and you're going to cast the Dusk half of it, you can easily see the entire card and the rules text on it. But when it's in your graveyard, you simply turn it sideways, and you can see the Dawn half of it. I actually think that's really cool, and a lot of people have just said, like, why isn't this a flip card or something? Honestly, I am sick of like taking cards out of sleeves and flipping them and putting them back in the sleeve, and you have to play with sleeves. A lot of casual players don't even play with sleeves, so like they often don't even play with transform cards, you know? And I can see how you'd want this to be a fuse card or a split card or something, but it doesn't quite work the same way mechanically as those cards, so I can see why they didn't go with sort of that aesthetic either. Obviously, the card isn't the prettiest thing in the world, but like other cards with Aftermath that have different art or are different colors or something might look better than this card, so I don't want to judge the optics of the whole mechanic on this one card. But even though the card is slightly kind of butt ugly, I will say that the elegance in the design is very, very nice. When it's in your graveyard, you basically tap it, you can see the other half. That's a cool solution. Now, as far as the actual function of the card, there's good and bad, pretty obviously. Now, as far as the good goes, this is an extremely versatile piece that does two very different things on one card. And even if you don't want to cast the Dusk half of it, it's pretty easy to just pitch it into the graveyard. And in this format, we're sort of trying to do that. Like, you might want a sorcery in the graveyard for Delirium, so you pitch it to like Cathartic Reunion or Sinister Concoction or anything that lets you discard a card. So, you know, pretty easily you can easily pitch this into your graveyard. I can see that being relevant, you know. And the fact that it's two completely different functions that are still powerful effects is super relevant because, you know, you're obviously looking to streamline your deck to where this card is as effective as possible in it. Now, you can't always, you know, predict what your opponent's going to have on the battlefield, but you can build your deck to where none of your guys die, or at least a minimal amount of your guys die. And then any guys that have died up to that point due to combat or removal, you can bring them back. So it'd be pretty easy to build a deck around this card. You know, Thraben Inspectors, Thalia's Lieutenant, Metallic Mimic, there's a bunch of stuff that could easily go into a deck centered around this. I also think it's cool that a lot of mid-range decks are going to sort of, you know, outmatch your aggro deck in the mid-game. Well, you can just kill all their big guys against a deck like Green-Black Counters, for instance, and, you know, eventually return all your smaller guys that they were able to kill in combat back to your hand. That's also really desirable. But will aggro decks play it? I doubt it. Like, I don't think Mardu is going to end up on this card. Which brings me to the bad. If you're playing this in like a control deck or a mid-range shell of some kind, then usually you'd want a board wipe to take care of all the small aggro guys that have been hitting you for the first 3 or 4 turns of the game. Well, this card does wipe the board, but it doesn't take care of those smaller dudes that have been your problem for the first few turns, you know, which is the whole point of a board wipe. So, in a way, I don't like that about it, but if you top deck it late, this can be a pretty easy 3 or 4 for 1. So there is that. It's still a board wipe. It's just not the most effective board wipe, because you'd be surprised how many times you absolutely need to kill those 1 and 2 power creatures, because those are the things that have depleted your life total up until turn 4. Add to that the fact that the aftermath on this for 5 mana might be a little bit too steep for it to see real play, but I'm not too sure about that. In decks that like to grind a game out, this could be pretty good because when you top deck it, it's a board wipe, and then next turn you'll have plenty of mana and plenty of guys in the graveyard to basically get yourself like a 3 or 4 card refill in the late game, which sounds amazing. Couple of practical uses for this card. First of all, I can't stop thinking about aristocrats. But I always like to think about aristocrats. One of my favorite decks, so I'm always looking for pieces for that. And, you know, we've seen a couple of pieces that looked like they were good in aristocrats, didn't really pan out. I think this might be one of them, but it's at least worth noting that Abzan, or, you know, any aristocrats deck would not mind a playable board wipe, and those decks don't usually care if their guys die or not, you know? And we can kill all the big dudes that outclass our little aristocrat guys, you know? That's cool. And best part about it is once it's in our graveyard, we can bring back like all of our Zulaport Cutthroats and Catacomb Sifters and all of the other little guys that we've lost over the course of the game. That actually seems really stupid. Another interaction that I can't get out of my head, even though I'm not really sure how good this is, but I at least have to vocalize it to get it out of my brain and into the world, is Baral's Expertise. Again, not sure how good this is, but you can always 5th turn Baral's Expertise, return their small guys to their hand, stuff that Dusk wouldn't otherwise hit. Then you can cast Dusk for free off of the Expertise, kill all their big dudes, and suddenly you got a thing sitting in your graveyard that'll get back all your Thrabins and stuff. Seems pretty good. Also worth noting that in Standard, this can bring Thing in the Ice back to your hand. That's pretty cool. And in Modern, which this card probably won't see any play in, but it's at least worth noting that this can kill all the big stuff and eventually bring Snapcaster Mages back to your hand. So, also that. That's basically all I have to say about this card for now, but I haven't had a whole lot of time to look at it or think about it, so I'm sure there's a bunch of interactions just in Standard that I didn't talk about here. So take to the comments section, let me know how you feel about everything involving this card. Not only the functionality, but anything I've missed talking about here, any interactions you think might be busted, that's cool. And tell me how you feel about the design of the card. Is it stupid, ugly, or is it kind of neat? Really want to know how you feel about all that stuff. Country came out for a second. My wife just pointed out. She's like, your country just like slipped out of you there for a second. I said, thang. Sorry about that. But anyway, that is all I've got for now. But let me know how you felt down there in the comments section. What are we doing next time? Well, this is a card that I think has like a 90% chance of actually being in Amonkhet. But next time I'm going to show you a bunch of cards that almost certainly are not in Amonkhet. Every time a new set comes out, I like to give you my top 5 to 8-ish cards that I would like to see in the set that I've designed myself. This is a lot of fun for me. It's a lot of fun for you guys because you either like to tell me what cards you'd like to see or you just tell me how broken my cards are, which is fine by me too. You're having fun with that. So look forward to that in the next couple of days. And then after that, super budget deck tech time, $5 mono red improvise a day or 2 after that video. So sub if you're new so you get all the content and so you get the actual Amonkhet spoilers that'll be coming out pretty soon if this card's anything to judge by. The Amonkhet spoilers are supposed to officially start on April the 3rd, but as usual, like this, we see a lot of cards could leak before the actual Mothership spoilers. Often. So stay tuned. You never know when they're going to happen. But if you like this content, like the content, and you can follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev. I am, appropriately, Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.